The King Tiger was one of the most iconic German vehicles of the Second World War. Officially, it was the Panzerkampfwagen Tiger Ausf B, or the Tiger B. The Germans referred to it as the Königstiger. It was a complete beast of a weapon, weighing almost 70 tons, and it had a huge amount of armour surrounding it. The armament of the King Tiger was the 88mm KWK-43 anti-tank cannon, and it was given to heavy tank battalions, being first used in combat during the Allied invasion of Normandy on the 11th of July 1944. If the Americans or British were rolling across the Normandy bocage, and in the distance a King Tiger was spotted, they'd immediately dive for cover, as it was truly devastating. But despite its immense power, there were a number of problems with it. It was the most expensive German tank to produce, and also it had a tendency to be very heavy. Too heavy. But there are some of these vehicles which still exist today, and have survived despite the fact that less than 500 were ever built. In this video we explore the surviving King Tiger tanks, and to support our channel, please subscribe. The King Tiger was the successor to the Tiger I, and it had very thick armour, and also it utilised the sloping armour used on the Panther. It was colossal in its size, and its engine was a V12 Maybach HL230 P30. For the size of the vehicle, it was underpowered, as it was much heavier than other vehicles such as the Panther and Tiger I that used the same engine. It consumed so much fuel as well, and struggled to be transported around. It had to be taken around the front lines on railway tracks, as it was too slow, and also too expensive to just drive to be deployed. As a tank in terms of its standing in the conflict of World War II, it is considered a very powerful vehicle that could take out virtually anything it faced, but it was very critically underpowered, went wrong too often, and also became too costly to fix. Its reliability and mobility were also troubling. Early models were unreliable, but it was seen on the battlefields in 1944. They were deployed in Normandy and on the Eastern Front, which for the Germans was diminishing. But it became clear that when used successfully, the King Tiger could be absolutely devastating. One account of a King Tiger's rampage in Hungary in November 1944 stated, from the 19th to the 23rd of October 1944, 120 anti-tank guns and 19 guns were destroyed. The Tiger II proved itself extremely well, both in its armour and from a mechanical perspective. Vehicles which received up to 20 hits without becoming disabled were not uncommon. In summary, the Tiger II has proven itself in every way and is a weapon that the enemy fears. When the formation is used as a single, unified entity and is employed in accordance with proper tactics, it always brings decisive success. The first combat deployment of the King Tiger, as mentioned, was by the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion during the Normandy campaigns. They continued to be used up until the end of the Second World War, and inside of Hungary, King Tigers were responsible for at least the loss of 121 Soviet tanks, 244 anti-tank guns and artillery pieces, as well as even taking out a train. A number of the vehicles were abandoned by tank crews, but there are a number of these tanks that exist in the world today. Despite the fact that less than 500 were ever produced, there is one working example of a King Tiger that is still deployed. The only working example is found at the Musée des Blancs in the Saumur Tank Museum in France. It has on board the production turret, and it belonged to the 1st Company of the 101st SS Heavy Panzer Battalion. They saw action in France fighting the Allies after D-Day, and had been fitted out with 25 Tiger IIs, but some were knocked out by British Sherman Fireflies. The working Tiger II was abandoned, it's believed by its crew, on the 23rd of August 1944, because it broke down with engine issues near to Marche-la-Jolie. It was recovered by the French army a month later, and then was held inside of a factory. It was then moved to a museum and was restored. The turret of this vehicle had the number 233 placed on it, but the tank was never used by the French army. As mentioned, this is the only King Tiger that still runs today. But there are many more static King Tigers that can be found across Europe and further afield. The Tank Museum in Bovington, England, holds 2 King Tigers. They have a pre-production and production model. The production model was built in July 1944 by Henschel, and it was abandoned inside of France around the 30th of August 1944 around the village of Beauvais. It is also thought that the tank was fired on by Allied vehicles, and it was abandoned before it was recovered by Sergeant Roberts of 4 Troops A Squadron of the 23rd Hussars. It has been held after the war at the Defence Academy of the UK at Shrivenham. The turret number of this was 104, and it was also covered in Zimmerit. And there was damage to the tracks and the final drive. But today this, as mentioned, is displayed at the Tank Museum. They also have a Tiger II pre-production model, the second prototype of 3 built by Henschel. This tank was not issued to a combat unit and was later captured by the British at the Henschel testing grounds in Haustenbeck in Germany. It has a modified exhaust pipe which was being tested at the time. After it was captured, it had its original tracks replaced with cross-country tracks from another King Tiger. There's also another King Tiger in Britain. The Wheatcroft collection based in Leicestershire is in private hands, and it's believed that a full restoration of a Tiger and rebuild is taking place to complete it. The project will use parts from different King Tigers, sourced from everywhere, but other bits will also be new. It's claimed by the owner Kevin Wheatcroft that there will be around 80% original parts, including the main armament, set of tracks and other hull plates. It's hoped that this will be returned to running order, but one of the biggest problems facing this vehicle is the availability of original parts, as they are very expensive and also incredibly scarce. There is a King Tiger inside of the Deutsche Panzer Museum, the German tank museum based in Münster. This tank bears the turret number 121. This was restored but does not run. In France, as well as the running Tiger II, they also have a relatively complete but wrecked King Tiger. But the problem with this is that it's buried under a regional road known as the 913. It was lost on the 26th of August 1944 and was then actually blown up by a scrap metal dealer, but parts of it were then constructed over when the road was built. The hull of the tank is in bits under the road, and it's hoped that it will be recovered. The turret of this tank, 124 or possibly even 123, has actually been recovered. There are different accounts as to what happened to the vehicle. The first is that American bombs dropped from planes and then left a crater in the road, and the tank's driver saw it too late and the tank then fell into it, with the crew abandoning their vehicle. Another account is that the tank was hit from a bomb in the air, and that this then led the crew to abandon the vehicle. Inside the Kubinka Tank Museum, a Tiger II with a production turret, which was captured by the Red Army, does exist. It sits in the museum next to other vehicles such as the Sturmtiger, and it looks incredibly huge. Another vehicle exists in Belgium, and this is inside a museum devoted to the Battle of the Bulge. This Tiger II was abandoned when the advance of Kampfgruppe Piper was halted in the Ardennes, but does have some parts from a Panther fitted to it. There is also a Tiger II within America, in the US Army Armour and Cavalry Collection at Fort Benning. This was captured during the Battle of the Bulge, and the left of this vehicle was cut open to be studied, and the final Tiger II that exists was displayed in Switzerland in the Thun Tank Museum, and it had been given to the Swiss by the French after the war. This exists today inside a military museum. So there are in total 9 Tiger II tanks that exist and are known about in Europe and the world today. Only one of them runs, and it's hoped that there will be a second at some point, which will be able to be restored so it can move again, and then amaze and also shock crowds. But there may be many more which still lie buried under the ground today on former battlefields. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.